there is now enough studies and enough data proving that productivity changes, productivity increases when you have employees that are sleeping well, sleeping better, sleeping more time. And you having an employee that's happier, healthier, costs less, right? Then it's a mathematical and an economics problem. In a general perspective, we now have enough data that says, hey, smoking is bad, drinking is bad.
On this week's episode, Alex Massei. This is a special edition of Gameplan focused on wellness, a $6.8 trillion industry transforming the way we work, live, travel, and play. Today's episode is recorded remotely, reflecting wellness at its very core.
Welcome to Gameplan. I'm very happy to be here today with a person who, left everything behind in a big tech and now is one of the most recognized wellness guru. Welcome to Gameplan, Alexandre Massei or Alex Massei. How are you?
Thank you, Kaio. Very, very pleased to be here, and thank you for the invite.
Of course. Alex, where are you right now? You're in Europe. You moved from Americas. You left capitalism behind, and now you are dedicating yourself to the wellness, industry in Europe. Where are you right now?
Yeah, I'm based in Brussels, so in Belgium. It's a big shift from Brazil. After spending quite some time in São Paulo, we moved 5 years ago during the pandemic, actually. So I would not recommend people to move during a global pandemic and changing jobs and changing continents. Definitely not something that you want to do while the pandemic is happening. But yeah, Europe is, I think, opportunistically speaking, there's a lot to do in Europe. You have an approach. We move maybe a little slower than the US and then Asia, but we definitely got people, we got talent, and we just have the will to make things happen. And fitness and wellness is one of those industries. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here.
Well, it's funny you say that because many things happen in the pandemic, and I'm not going to go there because we are all tired to talk about the pandemic. It's been 5-6 years now, but that shift that was a pivot for you, right? You were working in big techs, you work for Google, you work at Booking Holdings, and you were doing all this big tech, let's call rat race, right? Get a promotion, burn out. You're going to talk about that. And then the pandemic made this pivot in your life, in your career, and now you dedicate yourself to the wellness industry. Do you think the pandemic was a big catalyst for the wellness industry boom? Because you're talking about $8 trillion industry, right? $7-8 trillion industry or billions,
Yeah.
right? In that sense, depends on the market, not trillions. But how does that what was that pivot for you personally? And then if you want to elaborate a little bit as well in the industry itself, what happened in the last few years, I think would be great to give some context for this conversation.
Yeah, of course. So I think the pandemic was indeed a catalyst. I love, and I still work, I still consider myself working in tech, but definitely more wellness, fitness, and health related. But the catalyst came with the fact that spending more time at home and having time to take care of ourselves, I just noticed that productivity wise and the way we dealt with our days and what we could do, the time we could spend, and how we just looked up for each other and took care of our bodies and minds just much more before. So that on a personal level make me think, okay, do I really need to keep going within big tech and just a company after the other and stay in the same industries that I've seen, or do I want to do something different? I'm already in a different continent, already in a different country. And so obviously I started in big tech coming to Europe. So I was working for an insurtech called Cover. And so super interesting mission. We were 30 people, grew to 140, Series A to Series C, a massive development as well. But again, notice that working in insurance and tech was not necessarily a passion. Working for travel with What Kayak was closer to a passion. But none of them were related to what I actually care about, which is wellness, fitness, and health. And that comes from the fact that I raced and I was a competitive and professional racer when I was young, from the age of 8 to basically 19, 20
Wait a
years old.
second. When you say racer, you mean like a runner or a car racer?
A car racer, karting
Wow.
competition in Brazil.
Wow, that's amazing.
So Yeah, so this is where the cataclysm, when you change continents, you change countries, everything changed, right? Brazil, you're used to a culture, you're used to a way of working. I'm also Brazilian, by the way. It was very difficult to leave the country that I've lived and that I feel part of. But coming to Europe with a different approach, a different mindset, a different culture, Belgium specifically also has a particularity, which is it's a country with three different, almost four, to be honest, cultures, because you have Belgium French, you have Belgium Flemish, you have Belgium International, because Brussels is the capital of Europe, and you also have a big German-based population. So working in a country of 11 million inhabitants, which is basically the size of São Paulo, definitely throws you off a little bit because it's different. But
Right.
the cataclysm came, and that's how wellness and fitness actually came back into my life, where after a few days, few weeks, few months working, I just said, look, I want to be closer to what actually makes me happy. And yeah, I made the jump about 2 years ago.
And it's interesting, like, by here you're saying you definitely you're chasing your dreams, right? That's your game plan in life. That's clear.
Yeah,
Or the initial, the kickoff of your game plan. But the way I see as well is that you made a parallel of the corporate industry being big techs and now your life and how this was a
yeah,
big pivot as well, moving countries. You're French, right? You're French Brazilian, so you're back in Europe. You were a racer and now you are in the wellness industry as well, which is similar in the sports. But at
yeah.
the same time, what I keep asking myself is, what do you think corporates are doing for the wellness itself? What corporates are big techs and banks, fintechs? How do you see them preparing themselves for this wellness boom, considering the new generations?
Yeah. I think I don't think we're there yet. I think it's
Why
much
not?
trickier than what we exist.
Why
So
not? Like, what is? Let's define what is buzz, right, in terms of
yeah.
wellness, and what is reality, and why we're not there.
So I think in reality, I think the pandemic brought work from home and work from anywhere. And you can definitely see that over the past year and a half, 2 years, a lot of industries, mostly banking, tech, and some others, specifically in the US more than Europe, are bringing everybody back to the office. And I think it speaks to two different things. The first one, it speaks to Gen Z and the younger generation, where there is an important part of social gathering and community vibes and the culture that you need to create in a company that needs to happen. That's one. The second thing is most companies, let's be honest, have a wellness program. Most companies have, they give you Well Hub, or they give you a partnership with any corporate company to give you free classes or to give you discounts in what you can do. But none of them are really integrated and 100% personalized plan. It's just, hey, you have voucher for food, you have voucher for workouts, and you have voucher for the car. The
So
difference
do you think
is,
do you think that's a HR? Do you think all this wellness approach that companies do, the vouchers, do you think that's more like an HR buzz or you know checking box?
yeah, yeah. I think for most big corporates for the past years, it's definitely a checkbox saying, do we give benefits and which benefits do we give? And if the tick is there, then great. And that's the first step. I'm not complaining about it. That's the first step. I think the second step, and what's happening in the past 5 years, and the pandemic accelerated that, and the younger generations also are asking for more, is that there is now enough studies and enough data proving that productivity changes, productivity increases when you have employees that are sleeping well, sleeping better, sleeping more time, working actually at times to what. So I'm, for example, I'm very, very productive at night. I'm not a morning person necessarily. So for me, the ideal day, actually, if I could, it's not that yet the reality, but my day starts only if I can at 10 a.m. or 11 even, because I can work until 1 or 2 a.m. and I'm very, very productive at night. That's unfortunately not the reality you can ask from everybody, because commercial people needs to work on commercial hour, etc. But companies that have the ability to show flexibility will help. And you having an employee that's happier, healthier, costs less, right? Then it's a mathematical and an economics problem. So
Right. I have a
it's
follow-up question on that. When you say, like, do you have any data that supports the argument? Like, do you have any examples of a company that really does well? Because what you're saying, like, if I'm an old school guy, right, and an old school business owner, and I'm hearing that my employees start working at 10 a.m. and then they work well until 2 p.m., it's going to be a, revolution, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
all this back to work. So when you talk about, wellness in the corporate sense, and what is a trend and who are the ones walking the talk, what companies do you feel that their actual wellness programs are transposing and are resulting in high EBITDA and high revenue and high productivity? Can you name a few and why they're doing, how they're doing that?
Yeah. So I think most of the big techs are doing so. If you take, yeah, the Googles, the OpenAIs, the new generation, any generation AI actually companies, so even Anthropic or Apple, I think in those big companies you have old dogs that still sees the world in a different way. You also have the new, and most of it basically pulled forward with AI. But I think those companies, of course, they have massive corporate wellness programs that are established, which is already helpful. But I think the change is coming from a generational perspective. So the
Right.
Gen Zs, the millennials, they know they have the corporate pass, but again, because the culture shifted from a face-to-face present aspect to a deliverable, measurable performance rating, I think people are noticing that if you can travel and work well and deliver, it's fine. If you can work out and do your races and still deliver, then it's fine. And I think you can see also MBA. There's a interesting. I don't have the full data, but there's interesting analysis going over that right now. There's more people actually doing Ironmans, doing marathons, doing ultra runners rather than MBAs because it's
Right.
just the mental challenge, the physical challenge of not the race, but the training. It's actually something that a lot of companies are valuing sometimes more than just the study that you've done in the past, just because obviously it's not easy to get an MBA diploma and
Wait a
degree.
second. That's bold. That's a bold statement you're saying. You're saying that, and I'm going to repeat because I think that's great. You're saying that, and that's a great point of view, right? You're saying that some companies are valuing more a marathon runner like an Ironman
Yeah,
uh, than rather than an MBA graduation. Um,
yeah.
and I understand why you're saying that, obviously, right? So it makes sense. And how do you feel that an MBA is not useful anymore in that sense? Do you believe that in the future, as generations progress, like Gen Zs become part of the leadership in many companies, IPOs, and new generations that
Yeah.
are coming, you believe that MBAs will not be a key element anymore and will be more about the wellness elements?
So I'm on a personal view, I'm very, very, very much convinced of it. So myself included, I really when moving to Europe, I thought for a long time if I should do an MBA for two reasons. The first one was I think the networking you get from MBA is still very important, and that will always be true. And I think this is what matters most to people is the networking that you can do, and that's definitely valued. Obviously, when you do top tier MBAs, you definitely have interesting knowledge that comes, and you're going to learn from it. I think the shift comes from when you look at even myself when hiring people right now, if I can hire someone that spent a year or 2 years studying and putting to practice what they've learned, I think it's great. The difference with someone that has done Ironmans or has done ultra runnings or has done different things, the mental resilience or the challenges that you'll face, I think sometimes can be more interesting if you bring that people into the team because from a team management perspective, from a time perspective, from knowing yourself in very, very, very hard situations, I think you learn more. And I think you can adapt faster to reality. You're in the middle of the race, you're doing a
Right.
70-kilometer race, for example, 40 kilometers in, you have no more water. You still have to walk 20 kilometers to get something. You're tired, you're dead, it's night,
Resilience.
you don't know
Resilience.
what to do. In
Yeah.
that situation, you have two options. Either you move on and you find a solution, or you quit. And when you quit, you cannot walk back and just live. It's an helicopter that comes to get you or something like that. So I think the learnings you get from the training, and that's why I respect people that also look at extreme sports, endurance athletes. And that's why you can definitely see now the big thing among even CEOs and big company CEOs, that sports took another turn, is that because you have that mental clarity, mental endurance, mental and
But
physical
listen,
challenge.
do you? I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here because that's really
Mhm.
interesting what you say, and I somehow agree with some of the things you said. And then you see like Jeff Bezos, like super buffed, right? He's like 50 years old, like buffed guy, like some people say he's in, on stimulants for that, just allegedly. And Elon Musk as well, like it's younger now, he looks younger. So do you think that's all connected to the wellness mindset, or like the tougher, like the good like they say that the new 50s is the old, like the new 40s is the 50s, right? People are looking
Yeah.
younger and younger. So do you believe that they do that? It's 100% connected to wellness. It's the mindset that is shifting, including senior leadership in big techs. Do you believe that's the case here?
Yeah, I think it projects an image, and I think especially for big names, big CEOs, and big corporations, it definitely projects success. Because to get in shape, you need time, you need resilience, you need good sleep. You cannot do it sleeping 3 hours a night and not working. So I definitely think there's a part that is aesthetics, yes, but at the same time, it's a media game. You're showing that, hey, you're successful. I can also work out. I'm also in good shape. My health is also good. And I think the correlation between health, fitness, wellness, and productivity is also there, because people are basically able to do everything that they've done before, but now they're also trying to do, like, think about it. Take most of your friends or most of your colleagues, everyone that's past 30 years or 40 years old, all of them are either buying a coffee machine, training for a marathon, or
Not really. No,
training for
I'm
the
gonna
sleep.
I'm gonna give you the other point of view here. So what you're saying is that basically, like, and that's a great point of view in the wellness industry, and that's why we're having this discussion. Is that the better you look, right? The more successful you look, because it transposes time, it transposes resilience, it transposes power in a way, right? The healthier you are, the stronger you are. So and then if you have, like, if you run a marathon, you are very, you likely will be successful in the corporate world as well, because you know how to deal with resilience, and that helps into difficult times that we all face in corporate or in business. Now, what do you say to a person, like, that it's sedentary, that doesn't, how do you convince a person that has no affinity with sports, because not everybody, and I'm putting that as a counter opinion, right? Like,
Of
because
course.
the world is not made of only of runners, of sports players, of buff tech guys. And so how do you see this part of the population or the workforce adapting to the wellness? So if I don't run a marathon, I'm
Of
not going to be a CEO, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
No, no, of course, it's a
it
very
can
good.
sound tough, right, for somebody who is not in that
No, no,
scene.
it's and thank you for mentioning and asking the question, and the other side. So I fully agree. It's not, sports are not for everybody. So I'm using the word sports because it's sports is not necessarily for everybody, and you don't need to be an athlete to perform in your corporate job. I fully agree. I think, and this is where the health and wellness part enters. I think what everybody's realizing, and that's numbers can prove it as well, is that there's less alcohol consumption all over the place. It's going down, mostly for Gen Z, but for other generations as well. So, in a general perspective, we now have enough data that says, hey, smoking is bad, drinking is bad. The world, unfortunately, is moving towards more obesity, towards more diabetes type 2. But we know what is messing up our bodies and messing up our nights. And so you can definitely, for people that don't run or are not necessarily sports person, I think the health part is where everybody's noticing, hey, just small changes in my daily habits are actually going to make a huge difference in my life period, whether it's the corporate world or more time with your kids, or more time with your family, able to travel more because you're less tired. So I think there's also a shift in mindset, because we now have enough studies that can finally prove that, hey, ultra processed food is bad for you. And by the way, most of Western countries are unfortunately still selling too many ultra processed food. And so there's an entire chain of action and reaction. It starts from how much time you sleep, but it goes up until the type of sugar that you're eating and the
Right.
entire day of what you do. So sport is only a small part of it. But for people that don't practice, I think there's still a big uh, mind shift in terms of everybody's more aware and conscious of what they're consuming, how they're consuming it, why they're consuming it. And it's just nice to see that it's becoming part of culture. And so it's forcing companies to adapt. It's forcing society to adapt. It's forcing governments to adapt, which is definitely something that everybody's going to gain from, because a more healthy society also, stop to think about it, a more healthy society as a whole also means that insurance gets cheaper, that we don't need as much medicine, that we don't need as much. In Europe specifically, governments don't need to spend too much of my tax payments to put back into the system to treat sick people, because people are taking care of themselves. So it's an entire, we don't realize how important health and wellness is in terms of macro changes, even from a government public policy perspective. So it's a very interesting topic as well.
Right, you have more data, right? Like that's how you have more data to make decisions, and it doesn't matter if it's on sports or the data, the information is there, is abundant. It's interesting you say that, because I agree that we have more data now, right? You have more information, so not necessarily is about being the strongest, the healthiest, about understanding what is the data, the information out there, and making
Yeah,
decisions. And decisions not necessarily that will be related to becoming the strongest one in the gene or the number one in
yeah.
a race. Let me ask you that, and then we're going to move to the hospitality and the whole impact in the wellness industry, hospitality and retail and business itself. Um, if you do you think now, would you accept a position that pays you $300,000 in an office or euros, or 200,000, 150,000 euros at home? Why do you think most of the people would get it, and why?
That's a very good question. So I think it really
Generally,
depends.
right? Not about you specifically, but in
No, no,
general,
yeah, in
considering
general. Yeah,
the back to work, back to offices, and the whole wellness, how this impacts, and going back to the first point you said about working from home and having a
yeah,
more flexible.
yeah. I think there's going to be a different answer per generation. I definitely think younger generations, and I include millennials in it, which is us, uh, and Gen Z, I think they'll think twice in terms of taking less money, but working from home or working from anywhere and having the ability to do more, just because of how much they know their health now matters and how the world also shifted. That and more specifically in Europe, here there's a clear difference between even the US, Brazil, and Europe. You're more than just your work. Obviously, this is true everywhere, but culturally speaking, when you present yourself in Europe, when you talk to someone, or the work is not necessarily the first thing that comes out of the mouth of everybody. And so I think definitely depends on the generation. I think older generation, definitely more money means at the office, then fine. Uh, it will depend also on the region in the world that you're in, right? So Europe, it's fantastic to live over here,
So,
but
so, so, so do you think an European would pick? They would decide they would make like 50% less money as in salary or total comp to work from home versus going to an office. And in America, what do you think is going to happen? What would be the decision?
yeah, I definitely think that there is cultural differences that impact. I think in the US, or more business innovation forward-thinking countries, I definitely think that people would think twice and going to the office and making more money. Uh, Also because there's a difference in how the system works, right? So Europe has the entire back end of social security and how the state fair
Right.
works, which has positive and negatives depending on who you talk to, and definitely impacts your decision. But I definitely see a generation difference and a location region difference in who would choose what, definitely.
So in summary, the wellness is also correlated to work in the office or remote, and how much
Yeah.
flexibility you have, and
And
that's
yeah,
biggest benefit, right, for a company
and
too.
it yeah, and it's 100% personalized. I like the way you framed it on the question because wellness means something different for everybody.
Right.
Wellness for you can be being full week off detox, no phone, nobody can reach you, nobody knows where you are. That's a
Yeah,
very high-end luxury,
that's
and
a
this is what
luxury.
wellness means for you. Exactly. Luxury for some other people might be, hey, I want to get 2 massages per week. I want to be able to go 5 times a week to the gym, and that's my wellness. For others, it's, hey, I want to work my ass off, sorry, 10 months a year, and then I want to disappear for 2 months in the mountains. Nobody can find me. I'm in nature and I come back and I still deliver at my job. So I think the hyper personalization also of wellness is what's coming in the future. Right now we use wellness as a whole experience, and it's a big world, and all you hear about is wellness, longevity,
Right.
and I think we frame them in a global way to explain what it is and to explain a general trend and where it's moving to. But I think more and more this will be the world will be the word, sorry, wellness and longevity means something different for everybody. For example, I don't want to live until I'm 100 years old. I prefer to live until 70 or 80, but being able to run marathons at 65 and being fully operational and well, instead of staying until 100 and, hey, completely tired and destroyed for the next 15 years of my life, moving from my bed to the TV. That for me is not a way of living. So I think I'm using an extreme example, but that differs from people's views and what people want. And yeah.
No, I think you're a great example, right? You broke the chain, right? You left the big techs, like you had a career, you could have burn out, right, in one of those companies, just like, I don't want to do this. I want to follow what it's wellness for me. And that worked very well. And now you became a guru. And when I say guru is respectfully, because I'm not a big fan of gurus, but I think you're very sharp on what you do with Saulo's performance. And now in the studios, you guys are transforming into the Soul House of Wellness, right? Globally, that's the
Yeah.
plan in the next years. So let's talk about that a little bit, Alex. How do you see, there is a lot of trends in terms of wellness. Wellness for hotels, like you said, wellness is a big word. So for hotels, it's like a spa. We have the best Forbes five diamond spa. But what is wellness in the sense of in the hospitality industry in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you see this the industry coming to realize that wellness is a big thing? And I'm gonna add something here. I recently been to Iceland, right? And I've been to a
Yeah.
hotel that was 100% wellness related. It was like the Blue
Yeah.
Lagoon spa, very luxurious. And I kind of felt that that could be like a trend. But I want to hear
Yeah.
from you. What is your thoughts into the wellness industry and hospitality in the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah, of course. So I think you said it well. Wellness today, when we say wellness for hospitality, the first thing we think of is, oh, is there a nice spa? And who's the brand behind the spa? And is there a nice gym? And you think of the hotel as being, okay, I'll eat well, I'll get some workout, I'll get a massage, I'll drink a Muay Thai at the beach, and that's my holiday. So I think this is the traditional wellness, and there's nothing wrong with it because for most people this is actually what a good holiday looks like, and it's fine. I think we're moving in the next 5 to 10 years. Wellness will be personalized. That's the first thing. It will also be tech enabled, and it will be data driven. So let me explain the three pillars, because right now you have a few hotels doing cool stuff in the world.
What, what, what is
One of
what is
them,
one hotel do you think that is like a
yeah.
destination for people who are looking for a wellness destination?
So there is one called Cyro, which is based in Dubai. They open in Montenegro, and they're gonna open a few around the world, including one in Miami, if not mistaken. I
Amazing.
think Tokyo, and maybe a few other European cities. And so the three pillars that I told you, basically, Cyro, the way it works is when you're gonna book your night, they ask you and they send you a questionnaire, and basically you're gonna answer, hey, I'm in town for 3 or 5 days, I'm in town for recovery, I'm in town for an event, I'm in town for holidays. And based on the answers you provide, basically, hospitality wise, they adapt everything for you. So that means They adapt, they use, and they partner with brands that provide mattresses that can heat and uh, provide cold so you to sleep better. They provide special nutrition plans for the entire week that you're there. They also have a state-of-the-art gym, VO2 max testing, performance lab. They can do biomarkers, so they can take your
Oh,
blood and test. So I think this is obviously the extreme and very advanced view of what wellness is. But this is where I think it's moving from, because with all the data that we have, knowing that everyone wants personalized experience, and knowing that everything is becoming tech and AI enabled, basically, I'm not saying all hotels will become like that, but there's a vast majority that will be able to adapt very few details to make your experience better. If it's just understanding, just imagine that the mattress that you slept on is saying, "Hey, you're fully rested," and it means you can do a bigger workout than what you were already planning on doing. Instead of just pushing a few weights here and there, it's actually going to propose, "Hey, why don't you do a full Hyrox session? And by the way, we have a Hyrox coach that's on location. Please come and have a workout." At the same, on the other side, if you book the hotel to completely relax and be there for 5 days and not doing anything, based on what you've ate and what they've planned for you, they're gonna offer you a red light therapy and
right.
contrast therapy because you're there to reduce inflammation and you're there for losing weight. So because everyone has such different aspects of what they expect from hospitality, or what they expect from their holidays, or what they expect even from a business trip, because those hotels will also be booked 2, 3, 4 nights for business trip. And when you're there for a business trip, the demand on your body and your mind are different than when you're there for just a holiday. So I think all those data points, if they're well used, and obviously AI will be a big part of it, will mean we adapt hospitality basically to a one-to-one relation or one-to-few um, ratio. And
Right.
that's what's exciting me about hospitality.
Do you think so then a Marriott will have a cold plunge?
I hope that most Marriott, depending on where they are, at least the high-end Marriotts have it. Will every single Marriott or other hotel chain everywhere have a proper and full wellness offer? No, I don't expect it. I expect companies and hospitality companies to also make a difference between what it is to book a 6 cents high-end hotel versus a basic Stanford or Marriott hotel in a city where you have less demand. And if it's a business trip for 48 hours, you don't necessarily need to do a contrast therapy protocol. But the evolution and what the consumers will be asking for and expecting from hospitality, it's much, much bigger than what we know today.
Yeah, and you see, and it's interesting, right? Because this trend is already happening. So you have all these hotels coming, and this, companies adapting. How do you see the food and beverage industry adapting to that? Do you think there is somebody's doing a very good job in the wellness? Because there's a lot of trend, right? A lot of trends. I'm selling you a
Yeah.
burrito with, or like the other day there was like news that somewhere in the US, their wrap was like a tuna wrap was like 5 times with more fat than a Big Mac. So at the same time, there's all this probably trend and buzz and social media, living well and free, California, Miami. You have
Yeah.
also reality, right? So do you think anybody's doing a great job in the wellness in the sense of food and beverage, and who is that company?
Yeah. Um, so I think there's a few. Let me start with um, the supplement aspect of nutrition. So I think another big word is electrolytes. They're
What is an
everywhere.
electrolyte?
Yeah, so electrolytes is everywhere. So basically, electrolytes it's a mixture of minerals and salts that you can put in water. Basically, at home, if you add some salt to your water, you already have the very basic and natural electrolyte that you need, which is replenishing your body with sodium and water.
Right.
Now you have a bunch of brands launching more and more complex electrolytes with a balance of salt, sodium, magnesium, vitamin B, vitamin C. So it's boomed obviously because again with the rise of sports and more athletes, the run clubs, the communities, the entire evolution of the past few years in terms of how people get together and everyone craving for more events and more get-togethers, more get-arounds, that also means food, nutrition, and supplements evolve. So a few brands that are doing this well, for example, for me would be Umantra, which is a company based in Dubai. You have Cadence, which is an American company that focus on athletes specific electrolytes that anyone can take. Basically, an electrolyte is if you're going to the office, but walking, biking, or by car, if you do an hour exercise per day, if you're sweating a lot because you live in a hot country, your body needs electrolytes whatsoever. In theory, and I'll state this, I'm
Oh,
not a
but
nutritionist.
regardless of the supplements, like what is it like? Is that like any food chains or any food processing companies that are, you know, like the regular American can just go and buy,
Yeah,
you know, and
yeah. So you
what
can
comes in
see
mind?
changes. So, for example, PepsiCo actually they bought a company, and now the name is escaping. Uh, but they bought a company doing sodas that has almost none or zero sugar whatsoever. Uh, they bought it for $2 billion, if not mistaken.
Well,
And this is a clear statement from a big company that in theory sells you pure sugar, uh, that hey, the audience is shifting. People are buying less sugary drinks because obviously it's proven that this is one of the reasons why diabetes and obesity is growing, unfortunately, in some Western countries.
mm.
So that's one of the industries adapting. I also think,
Do you see
f-
McDonald's in the future making more McDonald's of the world, right? Like Shake Shacks and
yeah,
do you see that like then in the future adapting to the wellness reality and offering more Joe in the Juice products?
I so I hope so. Right now, they're not. I think Starbucks is a good example. Starbucks launched protein-based shakes in the US in some cities. That's definitely something. When you think of a Starbucks, like, hey, let me get a frappuccino latte, triple
Right.
caramel, whatsoever,
1,000 calories.
1,000 calories. That's a sugar bomb ready to explode. Then shifting to a protein shake or a protein coffee or a protein infused latte, that's definitely speaking to this shift in mindset that you're speaking about. Um, and so I'm happy. I doubt Burger King and McDonald's will be doing this in the next 2, 3 years. But looking forward and further, I definitely hope that at least they'll add options. Because again, a good diet doesn't mean you're 100% living miserably and not consuming what you love. A good diet
Right.
is actually 80/20. It's 80% of good food, good macros, good equilibrium, and 20%, sure, have your burger, have your pizza, have your Coke. As long as it represents 20% of your intake of calories and macros and you're working out, you'll be fine. Again, I'm not a nutritionist, but that's the basic rule on how to follow.
Would you buy a Aurora ring? Do you think I should buy one?
That's a good question. So I have Whoop. I prefer Whoop than Aura.
Whoop.
Yeah, the reason
What
is
is the difference between Whoop and Aura? It's just a branding different, like just the same product, but branding, they have different
so there's
brands.
a few, yeah, no, there's a few product differences. I think so Aura is obviously a ring based HR and wearable monitor. I think they have cool integrations with glucose tracking devices. They have very interesting menstrual cycle tracking for women. They
Wow.
launched a bunch of features that are definitely interesting to track and very precise on your sleep, your deep sleep, your REM. Um, the challenge for Aura for me in terms of wearable is that it's on your finger, and for working out, for sleeping is great. For the day to day is great. For endurance sports is also good because you're running or cycling, it doesn't matter. But if you're lifting weights on the finger, it's pretty tricky.
Right.
Whoop, on the other hand, you can wear it on your arm. You can wear it on your underwear. They're launching t-shirts and shorts where you can place the sensor in the short. So I think they have an interesting approach, more of an athlete's mindset approach. And this is how actually Whoop started and became famous, is because LeBron James actually used the product without telling anyone. And so this is a story that Will Ahmed, the founder of Whoop, tells and explains. And so they very much focus on athletes. And I think feature and capability wise, Whoop is a bit ahead of its time and ahead of everybody else. because they've managed to integrate biomarkers. So now in the US, you can definitely get your blood tested with several partners, laboratory partners, and it gives you exactly how you're doing, if your biomarkers are optimal or not. It connects that data to your sleep. It connects that data to your VO2 max. It connects that data to your training. And because Whoop has a partnership with OpenAI, basically there is a chat that gives you, hey, based on your sleep, based on what you ate, based on your blood work, you should be training ABC, you should be training zone 2, you should be training zone 4. So the hyper personalization of what you can get out of wearables today is absolutely amazing. And this is definitely passionate for me, because this is where you take human capacity to the next level. And so, yeah, a few differences between wearables.
We are becoming cyborgs, right? Like with all the information we will receive in the future, like you said, you are sleeping and then the hotel will tell you, you slept well, why don't you work out? Why don't you push harder?
Yeah.
Alex, great conversation. You know, he left a big text to be here today to be talking about wellness. He's definitely a person who understands a lot. If you want to tell us a little bit about our newsletter, Saulus, I think for people to get to know and to learn more, right? Because you are definitely a guru with all the respect into that aspect. So if you want to tell us a little bit, would be great as well.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you. Thank you for your time. I love the topic, as you can see, passionate about everything that relates to fitness, wellness, and health. From my side, yeah, it's called Salus Debrief. Basically, I try to write once a month or twice if possible, and bring basically news on wellness, fitness, and health. I bring trends. I try to do this US, Europe, and world. I try to do some analysis and deep dives also on very specific topics. That's one part. The other part from Salus is also a consultancy. So I try to help hotels, gyms, company that want to understand better what they can do in terms of wellness, fitness, and health, how they can put programs back in, how they can revise their entire hospitality offering, and what they can do. It's another part. And lastly, my day job is basically also at Animo. So I manage the fitness and wellness programs and teams for Animo, which is a European leader in fitness boutique and members club, as you mentioned at the beginning. And we're definitely expanding in Belgium, hopefully expanding in Europe. And we're bringing a new vision in terms of how wellness fitness works for the hospitality and for the members clubs.
Amazing. Alex, thank you so much for being on Game Plan, and I see you guys in the next Game Plan. What's your game plan? Game Plan is brought to you by Inter, nearly 40 million clients around the Americas. You want to know more? Download Inter right now. Stay tuned for more.